Hi, everybody. Welcome to our chat with a Bridgewalker entrepreneur. In this episode, we are going to talk to a very special guest, Anne Ye. She lives in Australia and she is a purpose coach. And today she's going to share with us how she started with her business. She is an accountant, but she changed her direction and morphed her business into being a purpose coach. So today she will share with us that journey as well as what exactly she does and what she has learned in her experience of starting her business and trying to find her purpose and now how she has found it. She's going to share these lessons with us today. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, Manasi. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you could join us today. So, Anne, tell us more about what you do. What does it mean to be a purpose coach?
Well, so basically, I help highly conscious, spiritually aware people, especially women, to really understand who they are at a deep level. And that is a combination of our mind, psychology, and also the spiritual side. So it's like a kind of a 3D or hologram view, deep dive into who we really are. Because without knowing who we are, we don't really know which direction to go in our lives. We don't know what we are supposed to do, because a lot of the time, like for myself, I struggled a lot growing up, not really knowing what my purpose is. I didn't really have a strong passion for anything. So I always felt very stuck, because as I went through this whole journey of looking for what it is, what my purpose is, why I am here, it led me into finding that, oh, okay, I actually need to first have the grounding of knowing who I am. And from there, then all the different things I do are just various expressions of who I am. So I don't have to be stuck with figuring out that one passion or one purpose, because I find a lot of people are very stuck because they feel like I have one purpose, this one thing I need to do, and until I figure that out, I will never be happy, But I realized from my journey, there isn't only one, Our purpose is really who we are, and we are here to express that fully. Like if you look at all these bright lights or all these very successful, famous people who's made huge impact in our lives, they don't start out doing one thing and then it's continuing with the same thing forever. Like, for example, Mahatma Gandhi, he started as just a lawyer and then he became an activist, right? And that's when he really shined his light for fighting for human rights and stuff, but with his background in law. And so and also like Louise Hay, who started out, she was doing something, she was a model to start with, if people don't know. And then she was a housewife, and then when she really found her purpose, she was into spirituality and helping people, doing counseling. And then she went into opening her own publishing company, the Hay House. Right. And then she becomes an author, and a speaker, and like everything just like unfolds like that beautifully. So that's the biggest thing I learned, that there isn't this one thing that we are meant to do. There are multiple things. Even when we love what we do now as a job, so I am a chartered accountant by training. I got into this trade because I was good at it, and I quite like accounting because I was like, wow, everything just balances, it's also organized and whatever. But after a few years, then you start to get bored because you repeat the same thing, and your soul longs for something different. And then we change a different job, and then you do it, and then and that's how when we follow the lead of our heart, it won't lead us astray, right? That's where we see everything unfold, and we're like, oh, this is a different way of how I want to express myself, and they're still part of me, and that's okay. So
absolutely.
So for me, I really wanted to help people really ground that deeper understanding of who they really are. So like for me, when I always felt the sense of uneasiness. I just felt like I'm not grounded. I'm like floating somewhere. There isn't that sense of inner peace. And only when I really, really understand who I am deeply, then I felt at ease. I felt finally at peace, and I don't have to beat myself up for things that other people can do well that I do, because I know that's not my gift. That's not where my gifts and my interest lies anyway. And I don't have to compare myself to everybody. It's like, oh, I have to be like everybody. I have to climb up the corporate ladder because that's the way it's supposed to be. But, you know, because that's not who I am. So why do I have to force myself to go according to what the social norm is? So it's about, you know, being really comfortable with who you are, and not judge yourself or criticize yourself so harshly. I think that's just the starting point.
Yes. And you bring up so many beautiful lessons that you have learned, and we really cherish that in the Weekend Academy. And even like my whole mastermind is around that topic, is how not to judge ourselves and how to be who we are and how to express ourselves fully. So when you said that our purpose is to express ourselves fully and just be who we are, it sounds so simple, right? It's very simple, but yet it's so hard to do because we have all these layers of programming on us, either through our childhood, through our upbringing, through the society. So tell us, how do you help people get over this? Like, how do you help them uncover who they are?
So talking about uncovering who we are, so through all my own self-experience and experimenting and working with clients and all these studying and courses that I've done, so I've finally streamlined, you know, like down to like a 6-step process that goes into like how to really uncover who we are. So my step 1 is, that's where the spirituality comes through. It's actually the last step, but it's actually the last thing that came through for me. But for me, that's like step 1, because step 1, I look at what our divine potential is. So because we are, I mean, as Bridgewalkers, we know we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So who are we as a spiritual being? We need to understand that as well. So I look at that first. I'm like, okay, as a spiritual being, who are we? What are our soul identity, our soul personality? Because, you know, and that is eternal. It doesn't change no matter which lifetime we go into. So I look at that via the Akashik Records, which tells us our gifts, our strengths and weaknesses as a soul being. Yeah.
If I may interrupt you just a little bit, some people may not know what an Akashic record is. Could you please explain that before you go in?
Okay. Yes, sorry.
No.
Yeah, I was just on that boat. I was just, I'm like, what? What's that? It sounds so too exotic. So basically, think of it like a energetic database. So every one of us have a book. I call it like a biography of us as a soul. So every single life experience we've ever experienced as a spiritual being is recorded in our biography. So it's like reading through our own book and see, oh, what have I done in that past life, whatever. So since our creation as a baby, you know, spiritual baby, and until we go into all the different lifetimes to experience ourselves, all those information are stored within the so-called Akashic record, or that energetic database. So that's where I tap into to find out for every one of us. I will tap into that information and see when we were created, what are our gifts, you know, because it informs us of what we are innately designed to do that will give us the most success and abundance. And I call it potential because it is a potential. We actually have to work at it, right? We can't just say, oh, I am gifted at communication, so I should be. But it will come naturally to us. If we want to become a writer, we actually have to go and learn the skills to write, to know how to write properly. But it will not be a struggle for us, and we will be successful. So for me, it's like, you know, having a little direction, so we don't force ourselves to be a writer if we're not really gifted in that, you know, and say, oh, I need to spend my whole life being the best writer. And then we struggle and we don't know why. And so it's just like giving us that dimension. And then I also look into, like, you know, things like astrology and numerology, you know, those things. That's also our divine potential in this lifetime because it focuses on this lifetime. So I look into numerology because that is one of the simplest. By just looking at the birth date, we can already see the most essential number, and the numerology is the so-called life path. So it tells you what we are here to sort of mainly focus on an experience, what our soul wants to do in this life. So again, it gives us more insight into, again, our potential. And it's not saying that we have to, because we have the gift of free will, so we can always choose, right?
Absolutely.
We can choose not to do it, we can choose not to step into our potential or fully express it, but at least it gives, sometimes we might not even connect to it because we're not there yet, but at least with that information at the back of our mind. Like a lot of people, they step into it much later on in their life. Like I was talking about Louise Hay, her life number is 9, which is about compassionate humanitarian. When she started, she wasn't, she was into something else, right? Modeling and whatever. But when she really stepped into it, then she really created so much success and abundance. But I'm sure earlier in her life, she would never have connected to that. So it's just about having that lens, in mind, that should we one day connect to it, then we know that that is the area that we are meant to express fully. And then after that, then I look into them as a human being. We need to look at our own mind. As you said, we've got all those layers, we've got all those conditionings. So that's where I look at our personality. That's where a lot of us focus on. We take numerous personality tests. Even when we work in corporates, they get us to do psychometric tests and this and that. And so that's all stuck with the mind thing, right? But again, what I find is there's so many different, like Myers-Briggs and stuff. What I found is there's a limitation where, because we have to answer the questions, isn't it? So depending on how we feel that day, the answer can change. Because for me, every time I take Myers-Briggs, my result is different.
Really?
I'm like, yes, I'm like, I'm not sure. So there's like a few, especially when you're on the borderline, like, I don't know which one it is. But what I found most helpful is something called Enneagram, which essentially means the 9 type personality, because it not only tells you who you are, your personality, when you are at the healthy expression of your personality, it also tells you when you're at the unhealthy state. So it's like a continuum, a spectrum, so you can look out for. And on top of that, it tells us what we need to do to overcome our unhealthy state, because Enneagram focuses on the reasons behind our behaviors. Like everyone can want to be helpful, but the reason behind it is different. Like for someone who's a type 2, they're all about, they want to be seen as helpful, because for them it's all about self-worth. And someone like a type 6, they want to feel secure. So they are helpful because so then they get the mutual support from each other. So it's about those insights and knowing that, and being more self-aware when things pop up, Then like, oh, I caught myself doing that. It's just a pattern. Again, Enneagram, one thing that I found very interesting, Manasi, is that Enneagram actually kind of tie in with our soul reading. Like quite a few clients who's done Enneagram, they see that because they're like, oh, it looks like what I'm struggling with in this lifetime, in the sort of the struggles, the weakness within the Enneagram seems to tie up to the soul stories, to the past life struggles. So that's why in this lifetime, I'm born into this personality, into this type, because that's where my ego's sort of fixation is, trying to work it out.
Right.
Like that.
That's the lesson we are learning.
That's interesting. Yeah. Trying to overcome that part of ourselves in that way. So that's a...
Sorry. I keep forgetting there was a delay here. But so that's really interesting, because we choose our life before we come here. So through Enneagram, it allows us to expose ourselves to the limitations of the ego, and transcend those through the personality and get to our spiritual being. So those two being connected, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. It's like,
very
wow, that is...
So then you combine all these different things and you help people find their purpose. Is that what you...
Yeah. So these are the 2 steps. So I've got 6 steps, right? Because for me, we are complex. So it's like looking for clues to who we are, because who we are is already here. We just forgot about it. We just don't know, because, as we grow up with the social conditioning and stuff, I mean, I think we are the closest to who we are when we were born, when we were a little child, a baby, because we didn't have all these other social conditionings and stuff. So we're closest to our truth, to our essence. As we grow up, the society, our parents, our friends, the teacher, and everything mold us into something that, Martha Beck calls it our social self versus our essential self, So we sometimes, if we go further and further away from our essential self, that's when we feel so lost. That's when we start to feel this void inside, like, oh, I don't feel right. I'm lost. I want to find my purpose, because that is a sign. It's just a sign that we've lost our true self. Our true self is always there. We just need to reconnect and find it again. So in everything I look at, I focus on finding ourselves. So then after knowing our potential and our personality, then I go into, okay, now let's go into finding ourselves, where we left it, right? Looking for the clues. So I will look into the past. Then I will take my client back into the past to see all those moments in their lives when they were being who they are. Because when we are being who we are, we experience peace. We experience joy, excitement, energy surge, and we forget about it, isn't it? Because we just go through our lives and sometimes autopilot. And it's about recalling all those moments and finding the pattern, because it's always a pattern. It's identifying. So what's the recurring theme that gives you all these beautiful moments, and that gives us more clarity. So the fourth step is then I take them to the future to say, okay, now, just imagine your ideal best life. Well, all the things you want to be, to have, to experience, and to do. And then from there, it's like, you open your mind up to everything. And then from the main purpose is to gain clarity. So what exactly are the true things that you really, really want to do? By getting them to, I get them to take them through a very rigorous process to rank their top 5. Only 5. Not saying that others will disappear, but it's about priorities. Because when we don't know our priorities, we are everywhere. We don't know where to focus our energy. So that is the main focus. So our priority is what is most important for us. What we think is most that we love the most, and it's also what's most important, isn't it? And then the step 5 is because when we talk about looking for purpose, it's all about what kind of role do we play, and there are all these archetypes, in our society, in our world. So then I would take them. It's like sort of like acting, like a dress rehearsal. Then I take them into a visualization where we experience a number of archetypes based on all these clues that we have picked up in the previous steps, and some of things, because a lot of time we actually kind of have a sense of a few things that we thought might make us happy or we like, and then we go in and then we try, and then that's when we get even more clarity. It's like, for me, I remember when I was getting married, there were a few wedding dresses that I wanted. I really, really wanted to try on. And look great, and guess what? After I tried, oh my gosh, this is how I look like, and I'm like, oh no more. This is about trying that and really knowing, oh, okay, it's not what I expected. So
absolutely, that's a really big step, to take action, to experiment, and to understand what works for you and what doesn't.
And then finally, the last step, step 6, is where we pull everything together and summarize into a statement. I call it our purpose statement,
nice.
or I am statement. So that is telling us who we are. I remember you wrote a post about the I am. Everything after I am, we believe in. So we are saying this I am something, and that encapsulates all the important things that we find about ourselves. That's who we are. So it is about showing up as who we are, being this true self everywhere we are, no matter whether it's at work, at home, in a shopping center, going into a meeting. So we don't lose the essence. So once we know that's us. Once we know we're not being us, we also know then that's why we are feeling lost, because we are out of alignment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting that you have combined astrology, numerology, Akashic reading, psychology, Enneagram, and also from your experience coaching on taking action and creating the I am statement. You're combining all these things together to create a solution for bridgewalkers or not bridgewalkers, whoever your clients are, right? You're creating that for them. How did you realize, what was your journey? How did you go from being an accountant to doing all this and understanding that I can combine all of this and create a business out of it? What was that journey like?
Well, so I think my journey started, it's a very lonely journey when I was 16. I remember, like, it was late at night and I couldn't sleep. And then all of a sudden the question just pops up. What's my purpose? Why am I here? What are my gifts and talents? And it just pops up. And I was like, I don't know. And I felt so sad. And then every year, especially close to my birthday, this existential question will show up, you know. And like some of my friends was like, oh, you sound like an old person. Why are you asking all these deep questions with no answers? So I'm like, but I don't know, it just pops up and it just disturbs me. And I couldn't find an answer. I just didn't know where. And I would, you know, in those days, we didn't really have Google or internet, you know. And I would be trying to find some answer and I couldn't. And obviously, a lot of time it was because I felt like I'm not happy, you know, and I just want to find happiness. And I'll be asking how to be happy and whatever. And anyway, and then you know, studying, and then I have to decide what to study at university. And obviously, with all the well-meaning family members and teachers, oh, you're good at this, just do this, accounting, you know, maths, whatever. So okay, accounting, it seems like a very good, reasonable, sensible choice for a woman. So I said, okay, there we go. And I go through the training to become a chartered accountant, and then go get a job in a corporate and all those things. You know, then you just follow in that path without thinking, because then you focused on, oh, there's a direction. And then once you got there, like, oh my God, now I've got everything. I've got the job. What now? I still feel the void, and it becomes louder and louder. And it became so urgent when I was pregnant with my first child. I just felt like I need to find out who I am. Something's not right because I'm so unhappy while all my friends are trying to now aim to become a CFO. It just doesn't motivate me. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, something's wrong with me. I complain to my husband a lot that I think something's very wrong with me and I don't know what to do. And at that time, he was experimenting with a coach. One of his colleagues was training to be a coach and asked him to be the guinea pig. He said, oh, I got so much value out of it. Why don't you go see someone so then you can figure yourself out? So it took me, you know, we're all skeptical, right? I'm like, where's the coach? What do they do? How would they help myself? I have been asking myself this question for over a decade. I couldn't figure it out. Why would they? But anyway, I really couldn't find the answer because like there will be things coming through, thoughts coming through, and then it will just disappear. Or I'll get confused and go in circles and circles. Okay. So in the end, I found someone who's a chartered accountant turned coach. So I thought, okay, maybe she'll understand what I am talking about, what I'm going through. And like literally after 3 sessions, I just had a light bulb moment where I realized, oh, the reason I don't feel I fit in, I felt this voice because I am not being who I am. She used the analogy, you know, you're just an apple among oranges and you're trying to make oranges. That's why you just felt so off. And that's why my business is called Apple Tree Coach, because it's to commemorate that moment, you know, my light bulb moment. And then after that, you know, just as you said, you know, after a reading, after a session, it doesn't stop there because then our subconscious mind take over and you start thinking and start coming up with more evidence and more information that lead you towards where you want to go. And I remember after I left her session, then my mind just took over without me even knowing. And one day in the meeting, suddenly it just pops into my mind, why don't you become a life coach? I'm like, what? This internal dialogue happened, like, what? I never thought about that. And then like a flood of information just pops through, you know, it's gonna suit you because of the lifestyle and you're gonna make a difference and you love psychology and whatever. And I just quickly pick up a pen and jot down all the information that just came through. And then I'm like, oh, okay. again, inertia, isn't it? Like, okay, so what do I do next? So I went and Google and I looked for a coaching school, and I was like, okay, this is big. You know, in your head, you do the dress rehearsal, but you have to still experiment with it. So I said, okay, they do a weekend seminar, so let me go for the weekend seminar and see if I like it, and then I can do the full course. So I went for that, and I really loved it. And then I went for the full course, and that's when I really realized, oh, I really enjoy doing this, and people have gained so much value out of it. And the reason why I specialize in purpose, because that's what's been bugging me my whole life.
That's your story. Like, as we say in the academy, your business is hidden somewhere in your story. Like all the experiences that you go through, that prepares you for the next to come.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how you listen to your intuition that was telling you something, you paid attention to it. And at first it was very loud, like every birthday it was showing up, like you got to do something, you have to find your purpose. And then later on you started getting quicker ideas. Like it's a very common thing in Bridgewalkers that initially their intuition is just this one strong point, and afterwards it starts getting subtle and subtle. But we start listening to it more, so the information keeps coming in. And that you are a really good example of what happens when you listen to your intuition and how you go further. So I'm loving your story. So tell me now, what have you, since starting this business, what have you learned and how you have grown spiritually?
Yeah, so initially when I first started, right, I was only looking into the traditional coaching steps. And then all of a sudden, the funny thing is what I learned is, you know, when you follow your heart's calling, like pleasant surprises just jump into your way. But I really wasn't prepared for a spiritual route, okay? I still was very analytical. For me, doing coaching is already something very weird, okay? Because now all of a sudden I am into the intangible world. And then Akashik Record comes through. It is something that I've never really experienced before. As I said, I'm someone who doesn't have a very strong desire or passion for anything, okay? But for the first time in my life, when I saw it, so I'm a Reiki master as well. I do that just, you know, mainly personally, okay? Because I'm drawn to energy healing. Okay, also something else. But and then so there was this newsletter that came through. It's like, oh, do you want to learn about what Akashic Records is? There's a free masterclass webinar. I'm like, huh? No, that sounds too woo-woo for me. No. And then it came back again. You know, the newsletter. I'm like, I keep on receiving this newsletter. Okay, let me Google what it is. Okay, why not? And I registered for it, and I forgot about it, and I missed the date for the webinar. I was like, oops, I forgot. If it's meant to be, I'm sure it will come back. And guess what? The next day it came back again. The same webinar. I'm like, okay, this time let me put a reminder on my phone, and I watched it. And I'm someone who's so skeptical. Okay, I'm trained as an accountant and auditor. I'm very skeptical. I never buy anything just off a webinar. I don't even know who that person is. But somehow with this one, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I even dream about it. It was so weird. It's like I felt like I was possessed, you know. And it's like you're so addicted to something. It's like that kind of feeling. That's the only thing you could think about the whole day. And I was like, okay, I have to do this somehow. So I bought the course and I did it. Like, it was just so intriguing. Like, because I've always been intrigued by the mystery of universe, and this kind of answered a lot of my questions. You know, where we come from, what our gifts, why we're here, and all these things, all these juicy things. For me, it's like, wow, mind blowing. And then I realized, like Steve Jobs always says, you know, you look back and connect the dots. And then I realized the reason why this pops in is because it gives me a further dimension into looking at who we are, our purpose. Because our purpose on earth cannot be explained just our human experience. It's something more. And by adding that spiritual dimension, then I felt like I found the missing link. And that's when I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I was so drawn to this modality. And it also gives us the power to make new decisions and not just saying, oh, this is who you are doomed. You know, it's like these are your potentials and you have a choice to make the most of it. or not. It's up to you, like that. So I'm like, oh, that's so empowering. So that's when I decided, okay, I think I have to add it in, even though it still took me a long time, because I felt like, oh my God, what will people think about me? What my friends think, or whatever. It's too woo. But then I'm like, if I don't include it, there's always this missing link. It's not complete, you know. People will still have a very sort of like, I mean, it's like peeling the layers of onions. Like, how deep do you want to go? If you don't go to the core, you will still have a bit of yourself that's missing, that can't be explained by all the psychological personality tests and stuff. So I just felt like I have to add that in. And yeah, so that's where it got me. And in terms of what I learned on this journey is that, you know, I realized doing a business, you know, it's like there's so many like human skills you actually need. So even though, you know, it's so nice, we are serving a higher purpose, you know, it's all about helping people, impacting, but we still need to put our head down and learn the physical skills, like how do we do marketing, how do we sell, and we need support. Like for me, I realized I actually do need support, because trying to go into a world where there isn't a roadmap set out for you, it's something new that you are venturing into. It is tough, hey? Like you don't know whether you're going at it right or wrong, and sometimes when you feel demotivated, it's still you. You need someone to be like cheering you up. So
absolutely,
yes.
Like that's one of my biggest learning in business, is that when you have somebody who cheers you up, like a coach or a mentor or the peers that you form connections with, it's really the gold. Because it's like you said before, it's a lonely journey, and there are so many skills that go into building and growing a business, that unless you have that support system with you, unless you're learning what to do next, it's much harder. And the process, why to make it harder on you when you can actually learn from somebody else how to do it faster? Right? Like that's the benefit. And throughout your story, that's very clear that every time you were stuck, you hired a coach or you attended that webinar, and you were moving much faster in that process. And the same goes with business, like learning marketing, learning product design, all of that. It's not people aren't born with knowing that knowledge. We have to learn those skills and then move it forward. And I'm so glad you're speaking this, because all our members in the Weekend Academy, they are here for the same reason. They're here to take action towards business and then move, grow spiritually, but do it by learning business strategy and business skills. So it's amazing that you are setting that example for them. Like this is what is possible for everybody. Like they can have their own fulfilling business where they are living their purpose, they're making an impact, all of that. And I'm so glad you're sharing this, because I think a lot of times that confirmation is also important. Just getting the confirmation that somebody else followed that path and they have found what they're looking for. So thank you for sharing your journey with us today. And now tell us, if any of our Bridgewalkers, if they want to work with you, what is the best way they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can just email me. I like interacting. So to like get to know each other personally, because for me, I always feel like this is very deeply personal work, and also very sacred. And that's why I love doing one-on-one. So they can just email me at appletreecoach@gmail.com, or they can visit my website and just contact me via the contact form, or email me through there. My email address is on there as well. And I'm also on Facebook. You know, if people are active on Facebook, my Facebook page is Apple Tree Coach. So it is as simple as that.
And what is your website, Anne?
Oh, my website is appletreecoach.com.
appletreecoach.com. And then on Facebook, the page is also Apple Tree Coach. And they can just get in touch with you through the Facebook and by filling out the contact form on the website, and you will get...
Yeah, or just email me straight.
That sounds good. So thank you so much for being with us, Anne, today. Thanks so much for taking the time. And I know we had the difficulty with the internet, but you were patient with me. So thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Guys, I highly, highly, highly recommend working with Anne. I have personally worked with her. I have gotten an Akashic soul reading from her. And I got so much insight out of it on what my soul is born with, what are my gifts, how I move into dysfunction if I don't follow my gifts. And it was really, a lot of it was confirmation on what I have already discovered in my journey, but there were some profound new insights that I have already started implementing in my business and in my life since then. And it's really a powerful session. So I vouch for the work that she has done. I have personally taken it from her. So I highly recommend you check it out. So thank you for being with us, Anne, today. And I'm so glad we got a time to chat and you could share your journey and the work that you do with the Weekend Academy members and all of the Bridgewalkers.